I guess we can start.
Yes, William, I think we can start. Yes. I think good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I think we can start. The rest of the people will join us as we proceed. I think we'll have to first take you through some housekeeping rules, and just to guide you in terms of how. Okay. Hello, everyone. I think so. We'll start our meeting today. Thank you for joining this call. Other participants will be joining in as we proceed, but now that we have everyone presenting, it will be good for us to start. So for housekeeping rules, there is an interpretation button on your screen, and we'll have subsequent interpretation in English and in French. And if you are not speaking, please, we ask you to mute so that we do not interrupt the speakers. And we expect that the speakers speak not very fast so that the translators will be able to pick what is being spoken. So without further ado, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand or you can type your question in the chat box. So would like to start today's meeting. I will start by calling Annette to give opening remarks from the Center of Excellence. Over to you, Annette.
Thank you, Hosea, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Annette Beyer-Forsendal. I'm a senior program specialist from the Center of Excellence for CRVS Systems, and we are based in Ottawa in Canada. So the Center of Excellence would like to join UNIGA in welcoming you to this expert dialogue. We're very excited about co-hosting and sincerely hope that this is going to be a very good learning experience for all of us. It's part of our strategy, and one of our strategic objectives is to create global and regional platform for learning and sharing amongst countries. So the purpose of having an expert dialogue focusing only on one country is to take a deep dive into a specific country experience. So we're very excited to have with us today the Rwandan government. There's representatives from different government institutions in Rwanda, from the Civil Registration Authority, the health authorities, and the statistics authorities. And we are excited about seeing the systems from different angles and how it's benefiting multiple stakeholders in Rwanda. As we all know, Rwanda has made enormous progress over the past years, and they have introduced a new digital birth and death registration procedures and a system, and we're looking forward to hear more about that today. The Center of Excellence at UNIGA has been supporting the Rwandan government to document the system, also from different angles. And my colleague Holly will now post in the chat some different material amongst the country profile and a technical paper about the resilience of the Rwandan system during the COVID pandemic. So I encourage you to read more about the system. As Madam Josephine is going to speak, we also encourage you to look into her new leadership profiles, where she speaks about civil registration and the development of the systems from a leadership profile, a leadership perspective. So with those few words, I'm just gonna say enjoy, and I'm now gonna hand it over to William. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Annette. Thank you, Hosea. I'm just going to give very brief opening remarks on this expert dialogue based on the interoperable CRVS system in Rwanda. So let me welcome all of you to this webinar, which we aim to learn the good practices from Rwanda. And I should thank our colleagues from Rwanda. I was there last week. It's an amazing country. It's an amazing place with a lot going on everywhere. And I'm happy to say, even on CRVS, we are doing very well in Rwanda, and it was impressive, and I'm quite sure they will be able to share all what I was also able to see the whole of last week. They will be able to share it with all our colleagues joining this webinar. It is always a pleasure to talk to you, everyone in CRVS. And as you know, it's a subject which is dear to my heart, and it is actually at the center of the core business which we do at ECA as part of our upper CRVS secretariat. So it is very close to my heart. We always welcome any discussion on CRVS, and as we share experiences, we actually aim to learn from each other. As for today's webinar, please take this as experience sharing, and you can adapt some of the things which our Rwandese colleagues will share with us, the good practices which they are actually doing. And if there are anything which you think do not apply in your circumstances, please, you are feel free to actually, adapt and learn what you think is useful. As we continue to provide civil registration services across the continent, we need to remind ourselves that our major aim is to reach universal registration of vital events. That should be the driving force behind what we do on a daily basis. We are aiming to reach universality. And as you know, for us to be able to produce valid vital statistics reports, at least we should have 90% of registration of births, of deaths, of marriages, of adoptions, and other, vital events. So that should be our driving force. We know for sure these range from 0 to almost 90-something%. So those countries which are hovering around 0, 10%, 20%, it is actually our motivation to increase that. In the past year, the Upper CRVS Secretariat at UNECA, in collaboration with the Center of Excellence for CRVS Systems, which Annette represents, we have developed technical briefs based on country experiences, on innovative and good practices, approaches to facilitate continuous and universal registration of vital events in Africa. And consequently, we are in the stage or in a phase where we are faced with the COVID-19, and we have been emphasizing how do we mitigate these on civil registration systems, on the production and generation of data for health surveillance during this health crisis. And I think there are a couple of countries where we have been able to demonstrate that civil registration systems actually have a role to play in terms of emergencies, in terms of health crisis. So the briefs that are available on the Upper CRVS website and also the website of the COE are for your reference and use. And I would encourage, you to at least scan through them, make use of these resources as you do your daily work, or you are confronted with certain problems. You might actually find them useful to resolve some of the issues which you will be confronted with. In January and February, we held a series of expert dialogues on mitigating the impacts of COVID-19 on civil registration and vital statistics. And the purpose was to take a deep dive in each of the technical briefs that were developed. And it is on this basis that we are having the follow-up dialogue on interoperable CRVS systems in Rwanda. So this is a continuation of the work which we did, or the webinars we did in January and February. So this is not a standalone webinar. It has been in the preparations for some time. The purpose of these briefs is to provide inspiration and policy guidance for CRVS programming in the African region during global health and other crises, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. These country-led webinars discuss the briefs and share experience that could be adapted in other countries. The government of Rwanda, through the National Identification Agents and other stakeholders from Rwanda, will be leading on this expert dialogue, and will discuss further on the role of systems in capturing vital data for civil registration, identification, and health surveillance amid the COVID-19 pandemic, highlighting the interoperable systems in Rwanda. I hope this webinar will continue to inspire you to strengthen your systems in your respective countries, and we continue to be available to provide any technical support. And I should say, after the launch of the CRVS System Improvement Framework, we are happy to actually say we now have almost 7 or 9 countries which have expressed interest in being provided technical assistance. And we continue to offer that to those countries which haven't reached out, and we expect to hear from them. And as I close, please remember that the theme for COM6 is anchored on innovation, integration, and decentralization. And for the next 2 years, our focus will be aimed at strengthening these pillars in all the civil registration systems in the 54 member states. And the Upper CRVS program will be available to provide you with the technical assistance, with the advisory services, so that these pillars are implemented in your countries. So let me end by thanking you for availing yourselves to attend this webinar, and let me wish you a successful deliberations during this webinar. Thank you so much. Over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, William and Annette. So now I would like to introduce Madam Josephine Mokesha, who is the Director General for the National Identification Agency in Rwanda. Madam Josephine, over to you.
Thank you very much, Hosea. Thank you, Mr. William, Madam Annette, and the team at the ECA and the Center of Excellence, dear Registrar Generals, CRVS managers with us. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, Madam.
Okay, thank you very much. So it is my pleasure to welcome you at this expert dialogue that team in Rwanda is made of, we have Alex Ngangare, the Director General of Territorial Administration at the Ministry of Local Government, Ali Nyandwi, the MNE and Report Specialist at the Ministry of Health. There is Ngoboka Godfrey, in charge of CRVS at the Rwanda Biomedical Center, Faustin Niringimana from the National Institute of Statistics. He's in charge of vital statistics and cross-cutting social statistics team leader. And there will also be Stephen Bugingo, the financial business specialist here at NIDA. So would like to thank you once again for being with us today. And I would like to thank the organizers to give us an opportunity to share our experience. So since the rebirth of the new Rwanda post-1994 genocide against the Tutsi, the government has taken decisive steps to ensure every Rwandan is registered, known, and included in the planning and development initiatives of the country. With this desire to ensure the existing system serves Rwandan effectively and does not add unnecessary complications, which necessitated a change of legislation and also designing an integrated and centralized system, which we're here today to give you more information about. This new system, among others, comes to solve the fragmentation of vital statistics by aiming to consolidate all civil registration into one single platform. Distinguished guests, the new CRVS systems also bring civil registration closer to people, eliminating the cost of travel and correspondences that they had to endure in the past while registering vital events. The main center of registering the two vital events of birth and death, which the system has been implementing from its launch on August 10, 2020, when it was launched, are the health facilities where most of these events occur, and also at the cell offices where for events that occur in communities. With this new system, we envisage to register 100% birth and death for the next 2 years within a time frame of 30 days established by law. For birth, the new system will also be instrumental in increasing the number of certification. One significant feature of the new system I'd like to also share with you is the National Identification Number, as we call it, NIM, and this number issued at birth, electronically generated by the system, and it helps to connect that citizen uniquely across multiple systems, and also allows them to benefit or access all the services they're entitled to as citizens. So finally, distinguished guests, for registration and acquisition of vital statistics is an important element of every state because it's about making sure every citizen is known and accorded the most basic of their rights, including nationality. So we know too well that without the collaboration of all our partners in their various capacities, our civil registration and vital statistics targets will come to fruition. Distinguished guests, the following presentation will shed more light on the interoperable CRVS systems in Rwanda. And these are the key points we'll be discussing on: the improvement process in Rwanda, the CRVS achievements, some of the challenges we encountered, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the CRVS activities in Rwanda, lessons learned, and the future plans. With this, allow me to invite my colleague, Stephen Bugingo, to take over with the presentation. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Stephen.
Thank you, DG. Yes, thank you, DG. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for hosting us to take you through the CRVS improvement process in Rwanda since 2018. You will allow me to switch off to stop the video so that we capitalize and we economize our bandwidth. So to start with, may I have the slides shared? Thank you. We are looking at the improvement process, which started by the situation analysis and the assessment of the CRVS system in Rwanda, and this took place in 2016. And that was the first step, the step that involved assessing the status. How was the CRVS and how did the CRVS look like in 2016? The assessment uncovered a lot of problems and gaps that needed to be bridged in order to get to where we wanted to be. The assessment showed that we had an conducive policy and legislative environment, and therefore getting to where we wanted to be would not be easy. That is one of the problems that the assessment brought to surface. Again, there was an absence of the CRVS organizational structure in place to coordinate, to trigger every change that was needed to have the desired changes and the desired state. And again, we had limited resources, and all these were issues that the assessment unearthed and which had to be dealt with to get to where we are today. In dealing with these challenges and gaps and moving forward, bridging them, the policy issue was resolved by considering the revision of the legal framework. So the legal framework, which, I mean, the laws by then, the legislative environment was not conducive for us to be where we wanted to be. And that's why the government decided to review the whole legal framework that regulated civil registration processes in the country. And the revision of the legal framework went together in concomitance with the revision of business processes and introducing the standard operating procedures in civil registration processes. So that is one of the issues, and that's how we went on resolving it. Another issue that that faced the improvement process was the absence of the CRVS organizational structure. To deal with this, in the strategic plan, because after the assessment was done, and then the issues brought to surface, brought to our knowledge, then we had to develop a strategic plan that entailed a number of strategic actions to deal with these gaps, to deal with these challenges. And in the strategic plan envisioned the institutionalization of the structure of the CRVS structure to coordinate the CRVS daily processes, daily activities. So again, the limited resources, we had to ensure that, I mean, we dealt with different organizations, different stakeholders to make sure that on the side of the government, this is a stressed need that had to be, I mean, the resources had to be committed to this to make sure that we get where we wanted to be in terms of civil registration. And then obviously we had the development partners. Next. Putting in place a coordination structure across all levels nationally. These are levels that the civil registration strategic plan envisioned, and on the top we had the CRVS National High-Level Coordination Committee composed of the Ministry of Local Government, the Minister of Gender and Family Promotion, the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, the Minister of ICT and Innovation, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs. This is a committee that coordinates all civil registration processes, the whole civil registration process on the national level. And then slightly below it is the CRVS Steering Committee, composed of the permanent secretaries from all these ministries and the director generals from agencies, implementing agencies in these ministries. So the PS, the permanent secretaries of these ministries, and then the directors, the director general of the National Identification Agency, the director general of National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, the director general of Rwanda Biomedical Center in the Ministry of Health, and the director, the secretary general of the National Child Council, and so on. And then this one, this committee is in charge of reviewing all the work that is being done by these other more technical teams, the CRVS core technical team and the National Mortality Committee. These are the committees, these are the teams made of, composed of different technical staff from different ministries and the agencies, as I mentioned above. So on the local level, there is a civil registration committee at the local level, composed of at the district level. At the district level, we have the director of good governance, the director of health, the statistician, and the ICT officer. Below the district level, now we get into the users, the day-to-day users of civil registration system. Next. So the digitization and the process of rolling out civil registration encompasses three major items, three major pillars. And this process was subdivided into what we call the phases. The first phase was in 2019-2020, where we had to develop birth and death modules. And then phase 2 was in 2020-2021, marriage, divorces, annulment of marriages, and then the last phase that we envisage to complete in 2021-2022 of adoption, guardianship, legitimization, and recognition. These 9 modules are subdivided into 3 phases, make up what we call civil registration modules. But before we started the module development, we had to first put in place a CRVS architecture to have these modules. So we developed business process maps and use cases at the start. So then the first year we developed birth and death registration modules, and they are now operational at health facilities and in community. In community, we are yet to deploy, but we have entered the training process to make sure that the system is deployed, but the users are able to use it. So the second was the training of system users. We are talking of a new system, then the new users, that means that we had to engage in the training of the users such that they are able to use the system. At local levels, we initially had 416 civil registration officers based at sector level. A sector level is an administrative level just below a district, and we have 416 sectors in the country. And in those 416 sectors, we had civil registrars and 416 civil registrars and their assistants, the civil registration officers. So we had to train these on whichever modules we develop, then we go on and train the users. So then we have the 2,148 civil registration officers at cell level, the 2,148 civil registrars at every cell because we have 2,148 cells making up, distributed in 416 sectors. To give you a picture on this, a sector is located on average in between 4 and 10 kilometers, looking at how the population is distributed. But if you look at a cell, is slightly lower and it's between 1 and 2 kilometers from the citizens. Now, but again, the way the civil registration processes before the improvement was made, the way civil registration processes, especially birth registration, was done, the birth would take place at a health facility, and then the mother would go home and then had again to make journeys incurring different costs again to go to the sector for registration, because these were the 416 civil registrars were the only ones responsible for registration of each event. But with the redesigning of the system, with the re-engineering of the processes and the development of new business processes, then we had to take civil registration services nearest to the mothers, and that's how the laws extended these responsibilities to other civil registration officers at all health facilities. We have 612 health facilities all over the country, and these include health posts, or rather health centers, district hospitals, referral hospitals, private clinics, and private hospitals. So again, we went through the behavior change communication campaign, because we are talking of a new system, new business processes, and then we had to make sure that the beneficiaries get to know these changes and they adapt to them, and so that they know that these changes have been made for them to benefit from. So we've been carrying out live radio shows, TV spots, billboards, web banners, and web advertisements. So these are the 3 pillars that guided the improvement process. May I please, you can go to the next slide. And may I request Godfrey Ngobuka from RBC, from the Ministry of Health. Godfrey, over to you to continue with the improvement process in the integration of CRVS system, birth and death registration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bujingo, and thank you, Chair, to give me this opportunity to take you through integration and interoperability of the CRVS system, mainly for birth and death registration in health facilities. Here, our system, our CRVS system, is interoperable with different other systems by different users of the systems, because it is the front-end system in the collection of birth and death information. So here, left you will find birth and death, mainly on the bed, you see the black bed. This is where events, whether birth or death takes place in health facilities, let's say in the maternity ward, where birth occurs. But specifically here, we will mainly focus on this, as you're aware that Rwanda today, if you see the registration, you're almost over 93%, if you see the current data, approaching 96. So I mainly focus on this, where we are putting more emphasis to ensure that all deaths are registered. So going forward, a medical doctor completes what we call medical certification cause of death when a death occurs in different hospital services, mainly internal medicine or emergency. The medical doctor, what they do is just complete MCCOD form, and also they provide a death notification form. In the context of birth, what the health professionals does is just to fill the information of birth information in the maternity registry, then forward it to the data managers. In the same of the desk, in aspect of desk, they complete 2 forms, MCCOD and desk notification form. One form, birth or death notification form, is provided to the family member just in case to go to complete registration process in front of registrar. So in our context, the notifier is a data manager in health facility who records birth and death information in the digital civil registration system called National Centralized Integrated CRVS System, in which data manager has access to notify all information for birth and death that occurs in health facility before the family leaves the health facility. So the next is the civil registrar, who is the director of nursing and midwife. By law, the law provided that mandate to the director of nursing and midwife to do a civil registration activity in health facility. Mainly for hospitals, if you go to the health center, it is the head of the health center who has that responsibility. If you go to the other health facilities, they are having different ways they are registering according to the law. So in this table here, graph you see, the civil registrar receives the death or birth information from the family member with the notification form and verifies whether the information entered by data manager, who is the notifier, are correct and authentic based on the form provided by the family member. Before they register, the civil registrar verifies together with the family member to confirm whether the information registered in the system are correct and authentic. Then the civil registrar register and certify the event. The information goes directly to the national database of CRVS system, in which, and immediately after registration, the family member goes with national identification number NIN, which is used to access or to get a certificate in the nearest Irembo kiosk, which may be found in all health facilities or Crowther, upon the payment of a certificate, which is almost $1. It is to get a copy of a certificate. But the registration is free. Don't get mistaken. Registration service is free. Just to get a copy of a certificate, you have to pay $1. So here, our CRVS system, digital CRVS system, is linked to DHIS2 of MOH, because those information, the registered information in the database are pushed to the DHIS2. It is also linked to National Population Registry, which is based in the NIDA. Just they put information and update information for BUS, just to update our registry, or flagging if the death occurs, if it is a death registration. So here we are also having Irembo platform, which is e-government services, in which we access different services for the government. So it is also linked down there to blue icon there for CRVS web-based system for NSR. Just those information are also pushed there using different API for integration and interoperability. So for National Institute of Statistics to get data for quality checks and the production of vital statistics. Next slide, please. Here I'm going to take you to the registration of birth and death that occurs outside health facilities. You are aware that some of the birth and death, if you come to Rwanda, you find it is less than 4% or 3% of births that occurs outside health facilities, but deaths you may find more than almost half. more than 50% of deaths occurs outside the health facilities. So the government is very concerned to register those birth and deaths that occurs outside the health facilities, mainly deaths. So what the family member does when an event occurs in the community, the first step is to declare an event to the head of the village. Then the head of village has to confirm and make sure that that event occurred. He has to go and visit the family member and also ask the neighborhood if that event, whether birth or death, occurred. Then the head of village provides a letter to the family to be taken to the civil registrar, who is the cell executive secretary. As my colleague Bujingo said, the distance, an average distance from a household to a cell administration, it is an average of 15 minutes walk. It has come closer mainly where those events occurs. So after the family declares birth or death to the civil registrar, point 3, the civil registrar verifies, notifies, in this case is a notifier, and verifies information on the letter provided by the family member from the head of the village, and confirms with them, then registers and certifies birth or death that occurs in the community. Immediate information are sent to CRVS database. So what the family, mainly for death, you cannot bury without having a burial permit. Step 4, that's the reason that they have to go to the civil register to declare death so that they can have a burial permit to enable them dispose the body of the deceased. So the family goes with the burial permit together with national identification number NIN just to access or to get a certificate from IREM platform, point 6, upon the payment of 1,000 Rwandan francs or almost equivalent to $1. Then the family goes with a certificate and proceed with burial activities, and maybe they use certificate for social, maybe for payment of the health insurances, or get the heritage of the properties from the deceased. So here, before you go to another business, this CRVS database is linked to IREMBO platform, as I mentioned earlier, to National Population Registry, just to update our population register by flagging in if someone died. And also it is linked to CRVS Web, System of National Institute of Statistics, for quality assurance and the production of vital statistics reports, in which now we are having almost 2 published vital statistics report of 2019 and 2020. And also it is linked to DHIS2 mortality module of the Ministry of Health. So going down here, you will find another thing, ODK. Before you go there now, this is the registration process of deaths and births. So now we are going to see how we can conduct the verbal autopsy. The verbal autopsy is a method of collecting signs and symptoms for community deaths to determine the probable cause of death, where the medical doctor are absent. You know, most of our settings in Africa, it is very difficult to find sufficient medical doctors who can certify all deaths that occurs in the whole country. In the absence of the medical doctors, an alternative way of determining cause of death is using verbal autopsy. In this case, in Rwanda, we are using WHO 216 VA questionnaire to conduct the verbal autopsy. It is another framework used, approved by the competent authority by WHO to be used in case there is limited or no medical doctors. So here, the law provides the responsibility to civil registrar at cell level, again, to conduct verbal autopsy. This gentleman is the one that knows how many days that occurs in that say. After that, he has to register them in the CRVS. So our ODK Central system, which is Open Data Kit Central system, it is a system that allows collection, transmission, and storage of the VA data. So this system, ODK Central system is here down, it is linked with the NCSI CRVS system, in which most of the information already collected during the registration of days are pre-populated into ODK Central system, so that the VA interviewer, in this case, point 3, is a civil registrar, seeks an appointment to the family member when they can conduct a verbal autopsy. Once the family member accepts or provides an appointment, the VA interviewer goes there with Android devices to collect signs and symptoms of disease before death. Mainly, you target the person who were closer during the illness of the deceased. Is the one who always provided an update and true information with regard to signs and symptoms of disease before death. So, which means ODK is linked to digital CRVS system here to national database. Then, where you are seeing black, all those processes already completed. So the yellow one, where you see VA individual information, it is now linking ODK Central system with what we call Open VA pipeline. Open VA pipeline is used, it is embedded with the algorithms that are used to analyze the cause of death information. In the more of, they are using artificial intelligence. So those algorithms here, we are having what we call in the VA in a silicon and tariff analysis. So once the data are pushed from ODK Central system to Open VA pipeline, it is analyzed automatically and push the probable cause of death into DHIS2 VA module. So from that DHIS2, this is where you can find the different dashboards for quality improvement and monitoring, and also other different modules that shows how many VA that was conducted vis-a-vis the VA, vis-a-vis deaths that are registered in different, at different levels. So after the DHIS2 have access on cause of death data, they push them again. We are also having an API that should be pushing those information, probable cause of death, to CRVS web-based system of the National Institute of Statistics, also for quality improvement and generation of the vital statistics, mainly death and cause of death statistics. So this is how our integration and interoperability is linked, of different systems are linked to CRVS, Digital Civil Registration System, where we call it NCI CRVS system. So thank you very much. Let me call upon my colleague from statistics, Faustin Lingimana, who is the CRVS, in charge of CRVS in the National Institute of Statistics, to take over to the next slides. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Over to you, Faustin.
Okay, thanks a lot, Godfrey, and the audience.
Next.
Yeah, can go to the next slide. Yeah, this slide is showing the journey for improvement of civil registration and vital statistics in Rwanda from the colonial period up to now. It is subdivided into four time periods. We have the events that marked the colonial period and the early days of independence. We also talk about from early days of independence to 2016. We look at the period after 2016 and we briefly talk about the project ahead in the civil registration and vital statistics. During the colonial period and the early days of independence, we find that in 1931 up to 1961, there was a decree on Code of Person Book 1, whereby all Rwandans aged 18 years and above might be issued with identity card. So this was known as a book. It was a kind of identity card that issued to the population aged 18 and above. So in the early days of independence, the registration of civil status of the population in Rwanda was governed by the order issued by the Belgian governor of July 1961. From 1962 up to 1888, there was a civil registration responsibilities assigned to the Ministry of Internal Security. Then after independence, we find that there was a law which instituted the preliminary title and the Book 1 of Civil Code. In 2005, there was a law that establishing the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda. In 2006, the responsibility of civil registration were extended down to sector level, where the sector executive secretary was added to the list of existing civil registrars. In 2008, there has been a launch of electronic ID system, and in 2011, the mandate of civil registration was transferred to NIDA by law. In 2012, the process of modernizing and strengthening the CRVS system was undertaken, whereby in 2015, we started the operationalization of CRVS web-based system to health facilities and sector level. The system was set to capture civil registration data for statistical purpose. In 2016, there has been a deployment of the National Population Registry to all sectors of Rwanda. And in 2016 to 2020, we find that in 2016, the law,
oops.
Yeah, the law governing persons and the family was enacted. Can you hear me?
L'interprète doit interrompre le service.
Yeah. In 2016 also, the Ministry of Local Government has been appointed to be the parent ministry for civil registration. We have also conducted the comprehensive assessment for CRVS in Rwanda. And in 2017, we elaborated the CRVS strategic plan to guide further implementation of CRVS in Rwanda. We also undertook the use of ICD reporting because of this within CRVS system. In February 2020, the law governing persons and the family was amended to allow registration of births and deaths to health facilities at cell level. There has been also the production of the first National Vital Statistics Report. In August 2020, there has been official launch of NCI CRVS system and the undertaking of registration of births and deaths at health facilities. Looking now at the project ahead, we look at strengthening official registration of births and deaths at health facilities. We are working on operationalizing official registration of community births and deaths at cell level. And we are working hard to modernize civil registration and vital statistics system. We shall also maintain the annual production of vital statistics report. Next. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is this is an overview of the vital statistics report that is annually produced from 2019. This report is based on 4 main events, which are birth, death, cause of death, and marriage. The vital statistics report helps to assess the impact of CRVS improvement initiative and showcases how far the country is toward attaining the target sets under the CRVS strategic plan. It is annually produced since 2019, as I mentioned earlier, whereby the completion process engages all CRVS stakeholders in Rwanda. We adopted the content and structure of the report, has adopted the template for the production of Vital Statistics Report version 1 that was developed by Vital Strategies and other members. The major achievements that are presented in our Vital Statistics reports that you see on the right-hand side, we had birth registration. We started with a baseline of around 50% registration completeness, but the report of 2019 showed that we were at 87% registration completeness. The report of 2020 showed that we decreased a little bit to 85.8 as a result of COVID-19 impacts. So we had a target to achieve 95% by 2022. These are the targets set under our CRVS strategic plan. With regard to death registration completeness, we started with a baseline of 30%, and the report of 2019 showed that we were at 31.4%. The report of 2020 showed a little bit decrease to 29.9, while we have a target to achieve in 2022 of 90%. Next slide. This slide shows improvement in the birth registration process, in the birth registration completeness, considering registration of birth at health facilities in 2021. So it shows that we started from 56% registered birth with 44 unregistered, and we are now in 2021, from January up to now, we are at 89.3% birth registered, meaning we still have 10.7% unregistered. These are births registered at health facilities currently. Next. Yeah, this slide shows an improvement in death registration at health facilities, whereby we started with 30% registered deaths with 70% unregistered, and it shows that we are going upward to 53% registered deaths with 47 unregistered deaths. So it shows an improvement in the death registration that we have currently in 2021. So allow me to hand over to the next presenter to talk about encountered challenges and mitigations. Thank you.
Thank you, Foste, for taking us through the statistics. And now we are looking at the challenges encountered in the process and how we are trying to mitigate them. One of the challenges is that we had to deal with expectations of different stakeholders. In an engagement in a venture like a huge one like CRVS improvement, you have a number of stakeholders. There were quite many in Rwanda, and therefore with again different expectations. At start, we had to identify those stakeholders and making stakeholder analysis, and then we identified them with their potential expectations, and then we had to bring them on board from the start. Again, we had a multi-stakeholder approach in the development of CRVS systems. Another challenge was end user and citizens outreach programs, where this has for example, if we take, for example, this, we started the rolling out of the system and deployment of the system in 2019 amid the COVID-19 pandemic. And so reaching the end users was quite challenging. So we are trying to introduce other initiatives like video tutorials to make sure that we give them to the users so that they learn by themselves how to register. We know this is challenging, but we will be closely monitoring how this is helpful and making sure that improvements where necessary are made. Then we will also, we are developing the system ticketing. This is a tool that helps to interact with the users so that through feedbacks and queries, we are able to respond to those queries and responding to the, to their questions through this tool. Again, we are working on TV spots. This is community. This is BCC. This is the way we need to we reach out to the different users, not only the users but also the beneficiaries of the system, the population in general. Use TV spots, celebrity mentions on radio stations, billboards and banners on main roads, TV and radio talk shows, web advertisements, and town hall meetings. This is done in order to make sure that we reach the citizens, we reach the users. Again, we are facing another challenge of digitization of the records, especially the legacy. We are shifting from a manual system to a digital system, but again, we have the backlog, we have the past paper-based system. So we are looking into how to make sure that this is also digitized. So this is another challenge which we are working on to make sure that these records are digitized. Again, we are integrating with existing registries. Godfrey and Faustin showed us how systems are interoperable and how information is being shared through APIs and end-to-end connections, plus the way the systems are talking to each other, to one another. Then there is an issue of completeness of death registration, especially in community deaths. The numbers are still very low, and that is why we are introducing a verbal autopsy module, the process to register home deaths. Godfrey has been showing us how the system is going to look like. Some parts of the system have been integrated, others are not yet operational, but these are the major homeworks, the major assignments that we have. We had the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic that affected the scale up of trainings and capacity building and other initiatives related to community mobilization and BCC campaigns, behavior change communication. So that's where we intend to resort to developing tutorial videos for training. Next. We are still talking about the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on CRVS activities, where we had delays in the rollout of the activities that were planned. Some of these activities included behavior change communication, as I mentioned, and then the training of end users. Again, we had an issue related to the development of modules of phase 3. Those are adoption, guardianship, legitimization, and recognition modules. So we are still working on this, and the development will start by July, because these modules have to be developed and then be deployed not later than 2021, 2022. Again, we are having delays in the rollout of death registration for community deaths. So that's why we are now working on verbal autopsy. In fact, we are now on the level of trainings, training the trainers who will go down to train end users in the near future to make sure that community deaths are captured into the system. Next. The drivers to success and lessons that we have learned and which we could share, we found out throughout this whole process that without a strong and functional civil registration coordination mechanism at different levels from national to local, this process would be very difficult to roll out and to have the results as intended. Again, we have found out that digitization and interoperability of CRVS system is very crucial. We have different stakeholders, and if these stakeholders are not engaged from the start, then accommodating their different expectations, then you might encounter many challenges in improving CRVS processes. Again, we also learned that political will and leadership support is very important if a huge venture like modernization of civil registration processes is to be undertaken. The government of Rwanda committed 68% of the whole amount that is used in this process, and then the GFF through the World Bank supported with 32% of the whole amount that was committed into developing CRVS system. Again, regular monitoring of birth and death registration at health facilities, making sure that you reach out to where registration takes place, collect feedbacks, work on these feedbacks is very important, and a driver to improve the processes and improve the operations, especially at where these events are recorded. Technical and finance support, I talked about that. And then you can't have these systems functional if you don't have good ICT penetration. You need internet at each and every service point from central to local level. So this is a very big requirement for the success of civil registration services. We also learned that having a locally developed and customized system to avoid issues of vendor lock-ins is vital to the success of civil registration services. This system was developed by these, in fact, most of them were developed by internal developers, local companies, service from development to maintenance. Very important. Having users is very important, and then building demand for data use is also very important to have a civil registration achieve its intended goals. Next, we are planning to train users. Again, as currently, in fact, trainings are going on. We are training and at the same time onboarding users of marriage, divorce, and annulment of marriage modules. Currently, the training and onboarding of users is taking place, is going on everywhere, all over the country. And then we are planning to develop and deploy adoption, guardianship, legitimization, and recognition modules in the coming year. And operationalizing registration of birth and death in community, as my colleagues mentioned. Again, we have to sustain annual production of vital statistics. We started in 2019. We have now 2019 vital statistics report. We have 2020 vital statistics report. And we have, we need, and we are committed to sustaining this. Thank you. I think this comes to the end of our presentation, and we welcome questions so that we can, where you have not been, where you had questions, so that we can answer them. Over to you, MC.
Thank you very much, Stephen. And thank you so much to our colleagues and the team in Rwanda that has put this together. We will start with, we have some questions in the chat group. I think the first question came in from Jason, and I don't know how we are going to be doing the answering, but you can, within the team, please respond to all the different questions differently. So the first question was, is there a doctor or medical person to declare a person dead outside of the health facilities? And I think that was in response to the business process that had been highlighted. Stephen, do we need to respond to each of those individually, or we could first go through the questions and then you can provide us some answers to them? And then there is another question from Herbert. He's asking, how does the interoperability of the system deal with other issues of gender equity, both for CRVS and the subsystems respectively? And then also from Ms. Matwini, Noranzi is asking what mechanisms can be used to improve on the completeness of birth. So please, I think we could respond to those first three. And then there is another question from Senegal, from Time. Then we can be able to respond to that. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Hosea. Maybe the colleagues will come in, but on how the interoperability deals with gender, the system is, all these systems are developed in a way that the information entered into them can be aggregated by different on different levels: gender, age, and all those other parameters. So we are able to determine, for example, if I can give examples here, we are able to determine how many, by gender, how many births were registered by gender. And then if you look at the mother, we are able to determine mother age, for example. We have different indicators that measures. So these systems are made in a way that they are able to respond to gender and age issues and all other parameters. So another question was about
question was on the completeness. What mechanisms were used to improve on the birth completeness?
On to improve birth registration completeness. I will sort of give background that in Rwanda, births, the number of births that occur in health facilities are more than 95%. That only explains why birth registration rates increased when we managed to take birth registration as further as to the health facilities. But we are still struggling to register this 5% of births that occur in health, rather in communities. So the mere fact that more than 95% of births occur at health facilities gives a reason of registration completeness being as up as more than 89, around 90%. Yeah, the issue maybe remains on death registration because now many deaths occur in community. Unlike births, many deaths occur in community. That's where we are now that's where we are directing our efforts. Okay. There is another question. There is another question that I didn't capture well.
I think that was relating to you responded to the one on interoperability. The other question is coming in from Senegal, and these are two questions. And the first question is talking about, it says, thank you for sharing. For the review of the business process, what has been done in terms of the review? Has a review of registration forms been done? That is the first one. And then the second one is that, do you have any idea on the performance in terms of registration through the health structures, village chiefs, or individually? Those are, I thought that we could capture both of those questions before we could proceed to the other questions. Over to you, Stephen. And Stephen, just before you respond to that, I will encourage colleagues, if you have any question, please put your hand up, and then we could select you to be able to speak to us. So Stephen, please respond to those ones before we can proceed to the follow-up.
Okay. On the business processes, in developing business processes, we first, by the assessment, we established what the processes were at the start and what improvements were needed. That was a very big task that involved all stakeholders in civil registration. We determined what the process looked like, and we wanted improvements. We were all sure that we wanted improvements, and we concurred on the fact that we wanted an improvement. So all stakeholders were involved. Then we found out that by the existing process, registration would never go up. So that's why the revision of the laws permitted and went hand in hand with the development of new business processes, involving that one to cater for health births, and then another one for community births. So the business processes were modified to allow all that, and again to agree with the law that gave us the chance to have all events being registered where they occurred. You also asked about the registration at health facilities. There is a question that came in about registration, whether there is a doctor that certifies or registers death or notifies death in the community. As my colleague Godfrey explained, we don't have doctors in community to certify death, to register and certify cause of death in communities. We are rather looking at how the community using community structures to register deaths and then register probable causes of death. So the issue is that as of now, there is a registration of deaths occurring at community, which is not to our satisfaction, but still in health, in communities, we intend to use the structures of local government, where the law mandated a cell executive officer and a cell executive officer. The office itself is on average a 15 minutes walk from households. That is by average. So we want to make sure that the cell executive officer registers these deaths, and it is a mandate it's a responsibility that was given to this structure by law. So we don't have doctors, medical doctors, to certify death in communities. That's what I wanted to answer on a question, whether we have doctors based in communities who register deaths. Could there be a question that I have not answered?
Yes, Stephen, we still have some more questions, but we do have Herbert raising his hand. Herbert, please, I think maybe Stephen, maybe Godfrey could also, I don't know, chip in as well, but Herbert, you have a question, please come through.
Thanks very much, Josiah. My question, my contribution looks at lessons learned, where I've picked the issue of IC penetration. They say that ICT is an enabler of CRVS, but now looking in the context of Rwanda, we have heard that the Rwandan workforce is very young. I don't know whether that's a myth or a rumor. And obviously, you know, where young people are involved, there is so much, experimentation with technology. I'd want to hear from the panelists, what's the link, whether there's a link between, you know, a youthful workforce and ICT penetration, besides the issues of funding by the government and the World Bank for the CRVS program. That's my question.
Yeah. Thank you, Albert. Yes, I believe that a youthful workforce could be a driver to the achievement of things to do with ICT improvements and the related processes. But I think if you had a youthful workforce and you did not have infrastructure in place, I don't think you could have the results needed. So I think it could be a combination of both that might yield to results. I don't know if there is a study that has been conducted and established a relationship between a youthful, youthful workforce with the use and adoption of adaptation of different ICT-based platforms. But I believe that these two, if taken both, they could yield to results. I think that is what I can say about that.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I would like to call through Patrick. I think Patrick, to just talk briefly in terms of what he had talked about. There was a question that Time had responded to, and it was the health structures, how they are connected, how NIDA is administering the health structures, or how it is overseeing the notification of births and death in the health structures when they are not necessarily responsible to them. So I know it is in the law, but I think Patrick had mentioned it, that they are connected. Could we call Patrick just to come and briefly talk about the connection of the health structures with civil registry, just in terms of either it is systematically or administratively? Patrick?
Hello, everyone. Hello?
Yes, Patrick, please proceed. You're loud and clear.
Okay, thank you, Hosea. So what I can just say about the health system or health facilities linkage with the administration and the civil registration in general is that in Rwanda, from 2016, as you saw in the process of building a CRVS system, we start engaging the health facilities. We started by engage them on just making the notification of event like birth and death that occurred in health facilities. And from 2020, with the new law and the new improved system, which linked the civil registration with the health facilities, actually we have a civil registrar officer at each health facilities that include the hospital and the health center, which is below than the hospital. So those people are having the access on the NCR CRVS system that is managed by all stakeholders, but oversees by the National Identification Agency, have the access to register an event on birth and death which occurred at health facilities. So those people belong to the hospital. They are managed by the hospital, but the information that recording from the system is go through the National Identification Agency and go directly to the civil registration and shared with the other stakeholders. So what I can say is that the health facilities, the interconnection with the health facilities, with the administration through the system, it's just the information that goes from there to the central system. And what I can just emphasize is that all stakeholders, including the administration, the National Identification Agency and the statistics, are oversee on their basis the information that comes from the health facilities at the local levels. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. We do have two questions. One is coming in from Noranzi again as a follow-up questions. Especially this will go to the INSR team. Is that could you share the formula for computing birth registration completeness? And then the other question, I think this one will go to Madam Josephine, is how was the process for establishing coordination and governance structure, and how did you decide on which institution leads other stakeholders in the CRVS improvement effort? And that is coming in from James. So we have those two questions. Could you kindly respond to those?
Thank you for the question. Maybe I can ask by responding to how we calculate the completeness. The completeness is calculated by taking the numerator from birth registered via the systems, dividing by the projected births from the population and the housing census. So we have a numerator from registered birth and the denominator from the population and housing census projections. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I think Noranzi, that does respond to your question. And we can share the contact for the Rwanda team with you, especially if you need some other additional guidance beyond that. All right, Madam Josephine, could you come in terms of the coordination part, or Stephen?
Yes, thank you, Hosea. So regarding the coordination structure, the chairing of the CRVS committee is given to the Ministry of Local Government because civil registration is under their mandate by law. But beside that, we have technical committees that meet often, and they are the ones who provide recommendations, observations, and actions that are now agreed upon at the steering committee. But at the technical level, NIDA was given the mandate of the modernization at the system level, but also at this technical level, we also have all the stakeholders that provide their technical know-how, and as my colleagues also informed, we have continuous verification and continuous improvement of the system, given that we need to ensure that all stakeholders still get the information that they need to be able to do their part of the work. As in Rwanda, all the statistics have to be published by the National Institute of Statistics, and as such, they're the ones who also look into the data quality and all the other improvements that are needed. So as also, like as a side note, we also have started to include other stakeholders, including the Committee for People with Disabilities, because they've also requested to get some other data sets that are collected at birth. So we believe that the CRVS system is not a system that is static, but it will rather grow with the needs and the needs of our stakeholders. So given that it has to be a centralized system, and also to avoid the data inputters, including the data managers and civil registrars at various point of services, we try to make it as smooth as possible, but also as comprehensive as possible, so that we avoid to have multiple systems that are recording the same information, which gives more work to the data inputters. This provides the data quality, but streamlines also the service delivery towards the citizen, because at the end of the day, it's just one single person that receives services at different points in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Josephine. Stephen, we do have a question from Belanga from DRC. His question is about, yes, he's asking that for the births and deaths that have occurred in communities due to the interconnection between the services, there is a document that is issued at which level, and that at the place of the event or at the central level, send it back for printing at a local level. I think he's asking where is the document. Monsieur Balanga, about la question s'il vous plaît. I don't know if he's still online. Maybe he could ask a question. Do you manage to understand it, Stephen?
Yes, I understand it.
Okay.
For births and deaths that occurred in the community, and then he is asking whether looking at the interconnection between different organizations and institutions and the systems, if a certificate, I believe he's asking about the certification of birth or death.
I think we can have him, Stephen, sorry for that. I don't know if he's online. He could probably come in and unmute and ask the question. Maybe that would put it up a bit in perspective. Okay, I think he cannot. No, Stephen, you can proceed. If he's available, then you can unmute. Mr. Belanga, if you are available, please unmute and then ask the question. But Stephen, you can proceed how you can be able to understand it.
I believe the document is asking here, and the level at which it is issued, whether it's on central level or whether if the document is issued at the place where the event took place or at the central level, and then it is sent through printing, something like that. But maybe let me start with birth registration, which takes place at health facilities. My colleague Godfrey took us through the registration process and how systems are interconnected and how they share this information. At a point, he showed you that from a health facility, a NIN is produced right at the end of the registration process. And this NIN is issued to the declarant, who could be a father, a mother, or any other person who is with the mother. And it is by this NIN, the National Identification Number, that they are going to take to the nearest Irembo kiosk. I will remind that Irembo is a government e-service portal where all services issued, provided by the government are accessed by citizens. So after the registration process for these births that occurred at health facilities, with the NIN, the parent, the mother goes to Irembo and then collects a certificate. And that is for all events, birth and deaths, whether that occur, whether they are those ones that occurred at the health facility or those ones that occurred in the community. One entry point to all citizens for the services provided by the government is Irembo, and it is a national identification number that the citizen goes with to Irembo, and then a printout of the certificate is issued. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How about we are going to come to you, but I wanted to, there is a question in the chat, and it's from Annette. He's asking, are the first names of the child given at birth in Rwanda? And in some countries, birth registration is delayed by parents because only one name is given, or the name is only given later. But I think this also relates to some of the social factors that are affecting registration in Rwanda. I would request Madam Josephine, could you please talk to this question and maybe also highlight some of the social factors that are being affected. Then Herbert, you can come in afterwards. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So Annette was asking about the first names of the child. Culturally, normally the names, babies are given names after 7 days, but with community and citizen awareness, we encourage parents to prepare names of before the birth of their newborn babies. And in case, because there are some who do not want to know if it's a boy or a girl, so they prepare both names, and then at the birth of the child, then they can do the registration and provide the names. But because the law gives us 30 days for the registration, there's still room for those who just do the notification and they do their discharge from the maternity. They can, after those 7 days, they can still go back and provide the proper name of their children. But what we are aiming at is to have the complete registration before discharge, so that when they go home, they have a birth certificate. The registration is complete. They just get the birth certificate via Irembo after they pay the 1,000 francs, which is $1. So it's a journey that we are on educating citizens to be able to have that name before birth, so that they can register it when the baby is born.
Thank you very much. And any other social factors apart from the naming issue?
The other registration, because you know our laws allow for registration of at the maternity, or health facilities, they are given the law gives them the authorization to register birth and death. So sometimes newborn babies are born from mothers, single mothers who are not yet married. And so like when the birth certificate is issued, it only has the mother's name, and the recognition of the child is done at a later stage at the sector level. And then upon the Recognition Act, that's when the birth certificate is updated to include the father's name. So some of these are the issues that we saw at the registration, but part of the education we also do, especially for the service providers, is to encourage any registration at the place of event, and then all the updates that can be done, because there are so many that can be done afterwards, they can be done at the sector level. And given that sector civil registrars have the mandate to register all the 9 events, so some of them, because at the birth, at the registration, some events can push to like 2 or 3 other events before it is completely complete. So the notification registration is done at that health facility, and other events will be done at the sector level.
All right, thank you very much. Herbert, please, is that coming with a question?
Thank you very much, Jose. Forgive me for asking so many questions. You know, our
no, please, it is very okay to ask as many questions.
That's fine. So I was saying our CRVS program in Zimbabwe is still in its infancy. We have a key ministerial institution that have been operating in a siloed approach, and what we are learning from Rwanda, from the Rwandan experience, it has given us a new meaning to the term interoperability. In the context of Zimbabwe, you know, our sense of interoperability was restricted to data sharing, maybe between, you know, civil registry and ZimStats. And that's a poor view, definitely. But I think today, me and my colleague, Sango, within ZimStat, we now have a good definition of what an interoperable system looks like. Again, I also want to highlight a good observation that I've made with regards to the role of the Minister of Local Government. There's so many structures, you know, the sector and the cell level, which I think obviously fall under the Minister of Local Government, which are very key to, you know, transforming CRVS systems from being passive to active, so that, you know, they render services close to where, you know, the customers are. So I think for us, there are so many learning points, and definitely our system in our programming in Zimbabwe will take a leaf from Rwanda in a very positive manner. I think that's my comment.
Thank you very much, Herbert. I think it's also very pertinent that this has been very informative. Do we have any questions from any other persons? Because we are almost coming to the top of the hour, and wouldn't like to miss out anything. If yes, I see a hand from Sango. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question.
Thank you, Osia. Am I audible?
Yes, loud and clear. We can hear you loud and clear. Yes.
Thank you very much. My question is, I think this also applies to Zimbabwe. Probably it applies to other countries within the region. My question is, when an expecting mother is admitted into a maternity health facility, is there anything wrong with recording the name of the father? If she is expecting, she's pregnant, she's expecting, she has come to a health facility to give birth, when her information is being recorded in the health facility, is there anything wrong with checking the name of the father? Say that when she gives birth, the birth record will automatically include the name of the father, which reduces burden to try to then say, can the father come up when it is now registration time? Thank you.
Madam Josephine, do you want to take a go at that?
Yes, thank you very much, Sango, for that observation. What we've done is we've gone on it on another way. Our centralized integrated CRVS system is connected to our national identity system and also to our population registry. And from the population registry, we can get the ID number of the mother. And if she's married, we also get her spouse name and her marital status. So we do not ask for their spouse names because we have it already. So the only time the father's name is added after the registration is in case she's single and the father has to go do a recognition, which is another civil event called recognition of a child born out of wedlock.
Okay, I think that also clarifies it, but I remember from the Namibia system, if both parents to provide their IDs at notification, even before the baby comes out, then they can be captured. So that brings us to the question of, having to undertake a review of the business process and then look at different use cases to make sure that that it's captured. You'll also find that, I think this is an example from Ghana, where in the new legal framework, they've also considered surrogate parents. So that because what is to appear on the birth certificate of the child may not be the name of the person who carried this child physically, but the parent and the people who paid for the service, for the person to deliver the service. So it is necessary to look at the different use cases. All right. So do we have any, since we don't have any other questions, I'd like to invite William and Annette to give us some closing remarks. And then also I'll ask then Madam Josephine to, after William and Annette, to also give us some closing remarks. And then we shall call it a day. Over to you, William.
Okay, thank you. I just need to thank the Rwandan team. I think we actually have a more in-depth view of what's really happening in Rwanda. And even if their system is improving, we know for sure there's still a lot of work to be done. Let me just say, like for beds, once you are left with the 5%, we call that the difficult to reach group. And to know who is this 5%, it's very critical. I mean, usually getting those 5% is very costly because they are difficult to reach for some reason or the other. And you might find you are stuck at that 95% forever and ever, and getting to get that 5% might be costing a lot of millions. And at times a decision has to be made. Do we still keep on pouring a lot of resources to actually get that 5%, or do we actually use those resources to maintain the 95%? And that decision usually lies with the country. And it will be something which Rwanda at a certain point has to consider, possibly after looking at the efficiency of, it's actually a cost-benefit analysis, which might be required at a certain stage. We know surely there will always be people who are difficult to get for some reasons. And these reasons possibly will need to be known. So whether you invest possibly in research or in just a study through possibly your mix or your DHS or even your census, and trying to see who are these children who are not being registered at birth. With death, we know for sure there is still some work to be done, which definitely will raise whatever the percentage is. If it is, let's say, at 30-something%, there still needs to be a lot of investments also in that, and really understanding why, you know, despite the investment in technology, in the death registration rates remain at a certain figure. But what the lesson learned to be for all the countries really is, in whatever transformation you are doing, you always reach a plateau. That plateau can be low, can be high, but when you reach that plateau, it's redesigning and re-engineering your system. And in doing that, you actually need to identify what are the reasons why we are, you know, reaching that plateau, and why do we need to re-engineer. So the lessons learned really from Rwanda are quite illuminating, and they're quite interesting. It is a journey which a lot of countries will go through, and that's why it is necessary to understand, you know, with any rapid transformation, there are detours which you experience, there are hurdles which you experience, and it's actually how you handle these detours, you handle these hurdles and so forth. So I would want to thank Josephine sincerely for accepting this invitation and putting a very good team from all the different sectors to talk about their collective contribution to CRVS system. I know NIDA actually is also in charge of ID management. You know, the next time we are talking about an integrated system of civil registration and ID, we'll also want to learn from Rwanda on how they are managing the ID part. But I think we need to thank them for having really shown us the CRVS part. And it's, you know, heartening to know that there are countries which are putting all these efforts, and they are working collectively from the different stakeholders. And I should say, you know, one thing which is also encouraging about Rwanda is really the investments put by government, and the development partners just put in a very small fraction of whatever investment is happening in Rwanda. It's the investment driven by the public fiscus which is driving this, and we are really quite, you know, impressed by the, you know, and as I have always thought, it is a very good case of public investment in CRVS system, and countries should actually follow suit and see how we can move from this, you know, donor dependence, and ask, you know, our civil registration to be 80% funded by the donors, and the public sector only contributes a very small fraction. I think it should be the other way around. And Rwanda is showing that it is actually very possible. So thank you for that. And we thank the Rwanda team for a very concerted efforts and for giving us their time to share their experiences. And we look forward to be meeting with them in a couple of months or weeks and taking some of the issues which have been raised here and taking them forward. Thank you. Over to you, Osai.
Thank you very much, William. Annette, we'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just going to be very short as well. Thank you very much to the team of Rwanda. It's been an absolutely pleasure. And I just want to also congratulate you on all your tremendous achievement and exactly taking like a collective approach to the improvement of the CRVS system. I think it's been very obvious from your presentation today that it takes a collective effort to improve your civil registration system, as William has already mentioned. So also thank you to all the participants. It's been nice to see how you have all actively participated. That was the whole purpose of taking, you know, just a focus on one country and digging specifically into that country. So we're happy to see how active everybody have participated. I just want to say that, as William has already mentioned, there's so many more aspects to the Rwandan systems, and they have all been pretty well documented, also like the Rwandan system from a legal perspective and how Rwanda is hosting and providing legal identity to refugees has been covered. So I would just again encourage you to look into some of all the technical briefs and country profiles that has been developed about Rwanda and read more about the system. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to be part of this webinar today.
Thank you, Annette. And I think Madam Josephine, you have the last word.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to the organizing team, the ECA and Center of Excellence, to the audience and the live interactions that we had. I'd like to thank also the team in Rwanda from various institutions. And this, as all of you have said, it is a journey that requires a lot of effort. It's a journey that continues. It doesn't end in one day. It continues, and the more we get input, the more we put our efforts together, the better it is. I'd like also to thank all our development partners who support us in so many ways to implement and achieve these transformations as we are looking to it. And we look forward to also learning from others, as these are webinars that these would be also looking to see how other countries have also implemented, how their challenges, they're mitigating their challenges. So we're looking forward to learn from others in the various areas in various ways. So thank you so much, and looking forward to a continuous learning journey. Should you have any questions or anything, you can please provide some links or some questions. We are always open to engage on one-on-one for further details or clarification to anyone who needs them. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. We actually forgot to take a group picture. I will ask, take 30 seconds. Please open your videos so that we could just take a picture for the memories of this. And yes, at least it's good to see everyone in good health. Steve, please go ahead and take the picture for us. Other people. All right. Okay. Oh, it's good to see everyone. So thank you so much for the picture. Others' cameras are not yet open, but
okay.
Yes. Let's just open just 30 seconds.
Okay, we are there.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. And it's good to see everyone. We wish you a blessed week, and thank you. So we'll close the meeting for today.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you, bye, and have a good day.
All right, bye-bye to everyone.